All right, so we are going into the week of what are we going to week? 29th. So this is for 7/29, and we actually will be going into August this week. So this week is gonna mark um, monthly close candle here. And opening up a new one on Thursday, so that'll be interesting to see there. I guess first we'll start off with let's go over some charting and see what we have there. And then after that, we'll go over some potential catalyst events that are going to be going on this week. So
Mm.
last week, we were looking for downside with SPY, QQQ, pretty much just the whole market here. Um, and based off, what we put out last week for the weekly watch list, it did play out pretty nicely. Um, yeah, and I think it actually worked out perfectly because last week's candle close, we got this candle close almost a break below this higher low structure. And then what we were looking for was once we got that break, we were looking for a back test of this lower trend line, and we were looking for some continuation. So that actually played out really nicely here in terms of SPY anyway. So that's obviously really nice to see. And then with SPY as well, I believe on Friday, we were looking for this candle close to close above 544. So this was pretty much perfect here as well. So yeah, overall really nice. I believe we did hit our weekly targets as well, as we were looking for a fill of this uh, weekly fair value gap right here. Didn't quite fill it. It could have actually gone a little bit lower, but overall still pretty nice here. But for me, this weekly candle close, and we have two consecutive red weeks coming in here. However, we did close above this 544, so I'm really interested to see how we'll react at this level. For me, this really isn't going to be too big of a major pivot spot. However, we did fill that weekly imbalance, which is what I was actually kind of looking for. Um, so we definitely could still continue to see some basing within this region, but I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up actually coming back into this fair value gap and then we just continue to chop around this area and just stay here pretty much up until the end of the week, as we do have some pretty major catalysts this week. Um,
Yep.
but for me, probably definitely more downside below 537, as this would be a breaker down to probably the 28s, so 528, and then next leg will probably be 523. So I actually like the spot quite a bit here. Oops. So below those lows right there, or below this weekly gap, definitely have quite a bit of room here down to let's just say the mid 520s. 520 to about 530 here is what we could look for if we do want to see lower here. Otherwise, like I said, I'm expecting us to stay within or stay above 540 this week. But if we get that breaker, then that's what we'll look for. In terms of the daily here, yeah, still pretty nice overall. Similar structure, like I said, was what we were looking for going into the week after we got that candle close, right? We were looking for the back test of that lower trend line, which is kind of like what we got right here. And then we got, that gap down. And then this was, I believe, that gap and go day right here. When we
Yep.
did get that back test of that lower trend line, we got that gap, and then we continued to break down after, we opened below this previous low right there. So that's actually pretty nice. But one thing we do want to take into consideration is we do have a gap. So that could be something we would be looking out for. Technically, you could actually extend this a little bit lower to about there, as that would be also a fair value gap here as well. So this, 550 level could be an interesting backtest area for me. So I wouldn't be surprised, yeah, if we actually ended up, at least having one green day this week coming up and tapped into at least fill this, halfway of this fair value gap up to 550 and then continue to reject there. But yeah, this looks pretty nice for me. So it looks pretty good. And that would also, yeah, be right at this previous high over here on the left hand side. And then yeah, so probably for me below 543 most likely, or 5, let's just say 542. Below 542, we would look for, a back test into this gap. And that actually has quite a bit of room here, so this could play around, all the way down to 537. So this actually does have room. So definitely keep an eye out for that. But yeah, it looks like we are going to be stuck in between pretty much two gaps, as I mentioned. I would expect a little bit more ranging coming in this week, so could be pretty nice. But yeah, I think that's that with SPY. Let's take a look at Qs. Q should have pretty similar structure here. Yeah, it looks like it. However, we did get a little bit more of a break here. Um, yeah, similar structure to Qs. Right. Last week we were looking for more continuation with that move down. You could actually see the line that we drew last week on the weekly time frame. Right, we were looking once we got this break of that lower trend line. Like I said, same structure with SPY. We're looking for that back test into that trend line. Didn't quite get it, but we're pretty much there. We got that back test and then continuation there. So you see, right, we had this weekly gap that we were looking to fill, which was one of our targets down to 65 this week, um, which we actually smashed completely through, and we actually pulled down even lower to this really nice spot right here at 457. So I'm a big fan of the spot for us to hold here. As I mentioned, I wouldn't be surprised if we started to see some basing. Depending on where we open on Monday, this could be a potential gap that's being created roughly about here. So I am still looking for a back test of 470. Should be, yeah, about halfway fill of, this previous gap here. So yeah, I'm still looking for a back test to this 470, but I am expecting this 457 level to hold. Otherwise below 457, we'll probably look to come down to this 446 level. And this will definitely be a spot where I'm going to be a direct buyer for sure, um, around this area. So that would be our next leg down right there. So I'm not sure if we'll actually get that going into this week, but we'll see. So below 456 for me is definitely going to be moved down to 447. So that's going to be about a $10 drop there on Qs. Otherwise, if we continue to hold this 456, right, I'd expect us to actually pull up into this 470. And then here also would be a potential another short opportunity if we were looking for us to kind of base within a bit of a larger range here. So that's that. Daily time frame. Yeah, same thing. Yeah, this was that gap and go day after that back test of the trend line. So it actually looks a lot better on the daily here, with that um, back test of that lower trend line. So we got that break right here, back test, inverted hammer close. We had that gap down and then that continuation that followed through. So once again, we have that gap created also pretty much a fair value gap right here. So like I said, yeah, definitely looking for this back test into this 470 region, which is what I'll be probably keeping an eye on. And yeah, below us, not really too much going on. Yeah, same exact levels that I'm probably going to be looking at. 450 flat could be a potential level here, but I'm more interested within um, this lower 440 region over here rather than this 450 spot. But yeah, that's pretty much that with Qs. See if it's
Yeah,
anything good.
I'm gonna say the level if we do get a breakdown on FOMC,
Hmm.
that level you were saying on the left here down to yeah.
Hmm.
We also have 0.382 on the weekly from this whole up move from October there. No, not there, but from the whole up move from
Oh, from
when we had a bearish trend and yeah. So I'm if we're getting more downside following data, if we not base here, I do like that spot around 38.2
hmm,
around there.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a nice spot here. And depending on where you draw a fib here, this could also be another
Yeah.
really nice spot as well. Like I said, I probably would draw it from this
Yeah.
swing low right here. So yeah, this GP would be pretty much perfectly, would line up perfectly within this kind of zone here. However, this is
Yeah.
going to be a pretty big spot. Yeah, this is about a $12 range here. And then again, this is going to be on the daily slash weekly time frame, so this would need some time to play out. I'm not sure if I would be a direct buyer at this 447 as I would expect a little bit of slippage into this region. So probably be a direct buyer around 440, maybe even 435, but that'll probably be that. Yeah, I like this spot a lot though for sure. If data sends us lower, but cool.
Yeah, that's weeks ahead, but yeah, that's-
Let's take a look at some individuals now. Apple on the weekly here. Interesting candle. Yeah, tough spot still for me that we're honestly still sitting in. We did get that break below that 220 level, which is what I was keeping an eye on last week. Um, so now that we have a weekly candle close below 220, I would actually like us to pull down to this 212 and 210, or even 200 psych level. That would be a pretty big level for me. So I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye out there. We also do have this weekly time frame gap that we are expected to fill. So for me, I actually do like this down if we are able to get below this kind of 213 or 207 level right here where we were kind of using a support. But you see previously, right, we did use this fair value gap as support, right? We never got that break inside of it. Multiple candle closes above it, and we continue to pop up there. So, if we are able to get this back this down to this lower region on Apple, um, I definitely look for this fair value gap to fill. Um, One thing to take into consideration is that we do actually have Apple earnings this week on Thursday, so you know we could potentially see a bit of chop, and then earnings will take us to whatever direction. Um, I'd prefer it for us to pull down into the spot. If we are able to get bad earnings report from Apple, and it does end up sending us lower, I probably would be a buyer at this 200 region, most likely for me, or maybe 197-ish, somewhere around there. But that's for the weekly. Daily time frame. Yeah, not too much going on. Well, this is actually what we were looking for with last week's watch list. We had this almost flagging structure for them on the daily, and then we're keeping an eye out on this daily flagging structure. What we were looking for was a fill of this daily fair value gap right here, and then we were looking for previous flag break and retest structure right here. So this spot where we're sitting at right now actually is going to be pretty much exactly where we wanted us to be at last week in terms of our target. So yeah, as long as we continue to hold this, we definitely could start to seeing some buying come in, as we do have, a little bit more imbalances to fill overhead. Otherwise, probably below this 217 level, we probably will go straight down to 208 roughly. And then maybe even could look for this gap fill. Although I'm not sure if we will actually get that, but that could be something to watch out for. But yeah, really nice overall in terms of last week's watches for our targets and how we ended up holding of this daily imbalance right there. But yeah, like I said, below 217 probably will probably come back into almost this flagging range here. So probably down to 210 first, and then to this gap. And then if we get below this gap, then we'll probably look to fill it down to 200. But that's a pretty big move right there. So like I said, earnings coming up, that'll be something to watch out for. Let's see, Microsoft, beautiful fill of this gap here. Great hold of this. Yeah, this similar structure as well with Apple. We're looking for that breaker here, break and retest of that previous flag that we had here on the left-hand side. Weekly targets last week was going to be this weekly fair value gap fill, which we did actually fill, and then I was looking for us to actually hold within pretty much this region here. As you can see, we actually did hold it quite nicely overall. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we did start to base here. Otherwise, if we do draw a bit of a trend line here, our level to hold here, if we did decide to actually continue pull lower, is going to probably be this 411 or 410 region, um, with it almost being a bit of a higher low structure. So probably below 410, we definitely could probably look for a bit more of a move down, probably down to the 400 psych level. That's probably where I'll go. Probably from break of 410, we'll go to 400 psych. Below 400 psych, probably will be down to this kind of region over here. Fill this previous weekly imbalance down to the 370s. That is a bit of a ways though, so not too sure if we'll get that immediately this week. So yeah, definitely be keeping an eye out for that. But those are probably going to be my levels for Microsoft in terms of daily time frame. Yeah, really nice spot where we're sitting at right now. As I mentioned, this is going to be that weekly gap fill that we were looking to fill. So this is definitely a spot where we could definitely see some, buying step in for sure. We do have a imbalance that we created um, overhead of us up to the 430 to 440. So that could be a pretty nice spot if we're looking to target some longs, if we start seeing some buying come in. Um, but otherwise, if we do remain below here, as I mentioned, probably below 410, or even this, or even below 420. Below 420, we could definitely see that move to 410, just based off this left-hand side here. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, so below 420 for me, you could see a move down to that 410 level, right? Take a look at Google. Okay, so Google's actually in a very nice spot here. This is one of the structures that we were keeping an eye on for this almost wedge. Did see last week it did end up breaking um, a spot kind of right here, right? There was two potential setups that we could have seen here. Uh, Actually, they both played out technically. As we were looking for this fill of this previous weekly gap, which we got last week, right? We ended up closing perfectly inside of it. So
Mm.
it's going to be similar structure to, that QQQ and SPY setup with this breaker, right? So we got that break below that lower trend line. We got that back test into it. So that break and back test, break and retest. And now we actually got a further push lower. Um, we actually even flew straight through this 172 level, which I'm actually quite surprised about. Although we might have actually based around there on the smaller time frame, but um, looks like I do have a gap here. For some reason I do. There has to be something here, but there might have been just this gap like that maybe. Forget why I have that, but yeah, pretty nice hold of this 166. Obviously, this is a level we were holding previously, so I would expect the spot to hold here. Otherwise, below this 166 level, if we get it something like more of a daily close below 166, we could look for this gap fill on the weekly down to the lower 160 region. So that'll be quite nice right there. Actually have a couple more setups actually even below us, and we do also have earnings coming up. Um, oh wait, no, we already had earnings, sorry. Okay, so this was the earnings again,
Yeah.
so that makes sense. Okay, so that makes sense. All right, so we
Yeah.
already had earnings with Google. So yeah, we actually are in a pretty nice spot here, but if other earnings are bad, this definitely could also continue to send us lower. But so, like I said, I'll be keeping an eye on this 170 level. Otherwise, yeah, actually, yeah, probably this 170 level or 160 level, maybe to this 150 over here, but I probably wouldn't want to see that. Looks like we may have even a weekly trend line. It's kind of coming, maybe something like that. Yeah, I could see this working here, something like this maybe. Come and fill this gap, get a little bit of slippage down to this, 155, tap off this lower trend line, and then continue to hold there. And that would be a pretty nice or pretty generous move if other earnings are bad. So I could definitely see that working out right there. Daily time frame. Oh, okay, so that's what that gap was. So that was a daily time frame gap. Okay, I knew I drew it for. some reason there. So yeah, so daily time frame gap, we are holding this. So yeah, definitely below this 165 region. Would look to fill this imbalance down below down to 156. So it's a really nice spot that we're sitting at right now. As of right now, we are using this gap as support, as I mentioned with earnings and whatnot coming up. Um, if we do get this break below 165, it should be a really, really quick move down to 150s, like the mid 150s here. So that'll be pretty nice to see if we do get that. And that wedge also did break out really nicely as well. Um, we do have a couple of imbalance to fill overhead, so could be something we may look to keep an eye on. But for the most part, I am more of a fan of this gap that we have below us here. So yeah, that'll pretty much be that for me. Let's take a look at Nvidia now. Favorite ticker. We also clear this drawing set. All right. So Nvidia on the weekly time frame. Yeah, still really nice overall in terms of this weekly candle. Uh, I believe we did have targets of this weekly gap. Yeah, I do have this drawn out.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have targets of this weekly gap. We didn't quite fill it. However, you did see we did actually get that first back test into it. And as of right now, we are currently using it as support. So that was actually really nice. And one thing I'm noting here is we were just about, or we were just shy of pulling into this 500, 100 psych level. So as I mentioned, this is probably going to be a pretty big level for me, as it would also be a halfway fill of that imbalance right there. So yeah, I really wouldn't be surprised if, we gravitated towards that 100 psych level and, at least filled a bit of this gap here. I'd prefer us to fill it fully down to 95. That way we actually have a decent spot that we could work with instead of just using this gap as support. But yeah, I would like us to fill it fully down to 95 or even at least come into this 100 cycle level. But yeah, probably below 107 if we get a bit of a larger time frame close below 107. I think it'll pretty much just be a straight shot down to that 100 psych and even go for that gap fill right there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, looks good for me. Yeah, I don't really see anything too crazy going on here. We see that we did get that breaker candle right here on the weekly, right? Had a pretty nice support here, and then last week's candle did end up closing lower right here. So yeah, overall pretty nice. So that's that. Let's take a look at the daily here. Yeah, pretty much the same thing. Yeah, I do like the spot down to 95. They get this breaker here below that 117 or 119 level that we were keeping an eye out on last week. This is actually one of the setups that we took with that gap and go level, right? I believe what it was we got that break below that 119 level on Nvidia, and then that actually just sent us lower, which I believe was this day right here. So that played out quite nice actually. You see, we do have a smaller daily time frame support right here, which is going to be that same support as that fair value gap. So yeah, definitely probably below 107. Look for more downside into the 100 and fill that gap. But otherwise, we, like I said, potentially could continue to base here. We probably will get a back test actually now that we cleared below it. Now that we cleared below this 119, I would expect us to get a back test, maybe something like that, and then potentially continue if we are looking for more downside. Otherwise, probably above 119 is when we could actually um, look to target some more upside actually. So probably above 119, that would bring us back above this support. So support then turn into what would be resistance if we end up coming there. And if we are able to get above there, turn back into support. Next level up from me is going to be up to 124 roughly, or 125. And that'll be that. Cool.
Yeah.
Any questions so far?
No, looking
No?
good.
Everything makes sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Alrighty. Cool. So yeah, now that we
Mm,
covered all of that, we're going to get into uh, catalyst events that we have going on for the week. So first things first, taking a look at the calendar. I will also change my screen for you guys. So first things first, um, we don't have anything on Monday. Have job openings at 10 a.m. Tuesday. That's not going to be too crazy. Consumer confidence on Tuesday as well. Nothing too crazy. Biggest things that I'm probably going to be looking at. Yeah, it's probably going to be FOMC Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then we have NFP on Friday, 8:30. Yeah, those are going to be the biggest events that I'll be keeping an eye out on this week. Thursday we have jobless claims. Nothing too crazy. However, we do have quite a bit of earnings, so I do want to actually take a look at that. But yeah, that's really it. Just looking into the calendar, Monday we could potentially expect it to be a little bit of more of a slower day since we don't really have any data. But yeah, I mean that's really it. Tuesday should be a normal day, I think. And then Wednesday potentially choppier, a little bit choppy, but we do see those days when we have data, like we'll get some pretty aggressive moves before the actual, event. So, previously with FOMC, we'll, chop for the day. We'll get like an extremely aggressive like sell and then or extremely aggressive pump, come back into that range and then kind of give up that move right before FOMC comes out. But we'll see. Thursday should be a normal day, and then even Friday, I believe, should also be a normal day. But um, Friday we do have NFP, so that's gonna move us during the pre-market. So that'll be uh that'll be interesting to see right there. Now that's that with the calendar. Now let's actually take a look at the actual earnings that we have going into the week. So I did post it under the earnings tab here. Um, so looking at this, obviously we have quite a bit of names actually reporting coming in this week. Uh, okay, no, wait, Microsoft earnings is on Tuesday. Okay. Yeah, so we have Microsoft earnings, AMD earnings Tuesday. So that will be a catalyst for tech to move. Wednesday, Meta earnings, also a catalyst for tech to move. And then we see here, biggest names are always going to be Apple, and also Amazon here on Thursday as well. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are going to be a pretty big days in terms of earnings. Um, so those will move the market most likely during the after hours. So I will not be looking to swing anything at all this week. I would also expect premiums to be juiced up for those that trade options. So yeah, definitely no swings coming in for me, more so just day trades and watching how those earning reports come out and how they come up to our targets. All right, but yeah, Monday is not really too much. We have McDonald's, I guess, but we don't really trade that. So like I said, Monday probably should be a normal or potentially slower day. And then Tuesday should be also a pretty normal day, but we may look to see some actual pre-earnings run up as we've seen last week, right? That is something we were keeping an eye out for on Google, and that's actually something that we got last week when they did report their earnings. So definitely could expect to see some potential pre-earnings run up, especially with the setups that we were actually looking at. Um, we are at a pretty decent spot of support as of right now. So yeah, pre-earnings run up, I wouldn't be surprised, and that would, kind of validate the setups that we were kind of keeping an eye out on with that back test into that 470 for QQQ for a potential another leg down there. Um, and that would also keep us in a bit of a range. So I definitely like to see that if we, are able to get that. All right. Any questions on anything? Everything sounds good.
Yeah, yeah. I like the basing slash bottom forming here and with some slight maybe upside and then the catalyst we're gonna see if we get another leg down or more of a bottom forming.
Mm-hmm.
Kinda, yeah.
Cool. All right. I think that's pretty much it then.